At my last evaluation, or during my last speech, during the evaluation portion, Jonas brought up a really good point. I used a metaphor from a video game, and he said, "I didn't know you were a nerd." And it occurred to me, that it brought my receptivity to his feedback, brought in a deep level of introspect for me. And so I realized that, a lot of times I am clean cut. I am, and especially for Toastmasters, because I'm headed on my way to work. And so today I've dressed purposely as what you might see me out in public wearing. This hat right here, I have five of this exact hat because I like this hat, and this is the hat that I want to wear when I go out. And sometimes it fades, so just want to keep it nice and clean. If we were in person, I'd be wearing my PF Flyers. The ones from the Sandlot. They're supposed to make you run faster and jump higher. Truthfully, they're the least comfortable shoes that I own, but I absolutely love wearing them. I got this shirt here from the tour of the Setting Sums. It's Sum 41. This year they're doing their farewell tour. They're one of my favorite bands, and I'm very sad to see them go, but it was great to see them live again. Before this meeting began, I was playing some video games. I'm a huge nerd, so let's nerd out together. Movie quotes is my third language, right behind sarcasm. I could spend all day talking about movies and speaking in movie quotes. There's a large indication behind me of what one of my favorite movies of all time is. And Nicolas Cage, in my opinion, is one of the greatest actors of our generation. Another one here, The Fast and the Furious. As I mentioned before, The Sandlot is one of my favorite movies. Another movie, The Replacements with Keanu Reeves. In that movie, they are the Washington Sentinels. And I thought to myself when the Washington Redskins were going through the name change that they had one chance to name them the Washington Sentinels, and they missed it. But the Commanders is a good name too. Last movie here, Top Gun. I wasn't obsessed with airplanes until I got into the aviation as my profession. So let's nerd out and speak some movie quotes together someday. My second favorite form of entertainment to nerd out to is music. I love all the music. I'm always listening to music. Each year, Spotify comes out with a wrapped up for the year. And in 2023, I had 54 days worth of music listened to. And growing up in the late 90s and early 2000s, I remember all the pop music that played over the radio: NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, Mariah Carey, Britney Spears, Smash Mouth, so many more. However, my first love in music was rap and hip hop. Growing up, it's what my brothers were listening to, and whether it was UGK, Notorious B.I.G., NWA, Eminem, I loved listening to it. Growing up in Nebraska, there's no geographical biases. So I didn't have any ties to the West Coast, East Coast, down south, or the Midwest sounds. So I got a collective of all of it. There was no music to me at that time more exciting than G Unit, Beg for Mercy. I've listened to that album. I've listened to at least a song from that album once a week since it came out in 2003. Almost every day, I still listen to at least one of the songs from there. And then there's this one, Eminem, the Slim Shady EP. The thing that's special about this album is it's where he really shines for the first time creatively. The introduction to that album, the very first song, is when he introduces his alter ego of Slim Shady. And to anybody who listens to Eminem, they know exactly what I mean by Slim Shady. Also, as a kid, I fell in love with one band, one of the most hated bands that I can think of. In fact, there was a period of time during my high school days that this band was hated because it seemed to me like it was the cool thing to do. But I'm unashamed to admit that I'm one of their biggest fans. Nickelback. I've seen them three times in concert, and they are one of the greatest shows that are around. Last but not least, a band that's been with me through all of my good days and all of my bad days since I turned 18 years old. A Day to Remember. This year, I've seen Alien Ant Farm, Sum 41, A Day to Remember, CKY, and Coheed and Cambria in concert. Coheed and Cambria is a cool one too. The cool thing about that band is that their first three albums that they made are chronological sagas of two characters named Coheed and Cambria. I thought that was extremely creative and really enjoy listening to it. I don't have as much time as I used to anymore, but my favorite thing to nerd out with since I was 3 years old, video games. I love video games in all varieties to me. You've got the Brothers in Arms series, which is a creative reimagining of the D-Day invasions of the 502nd Parachute Infantry Regiment of the famed 101st Airborne Division behind enemy lines on D-Day. It's a story about Matt Baker and the 13 men in his squad, the Baker's Dozen. And then there's Def Jam, Fight for New York. The Def Jam series is a creative envisioning with a deep storyline of rappers on the Def Jam label and an underground fight scene in New York. It's so much fun, and I just really love the creativity behind it. And there are rappers who voice themselves, such as Snoop Dogg, Fat Joe, Method Man, and a lot more. But nothing in the world gets me nerding out more than Halo 2. This case and this disc right here, I got in Christmas. It'll be 19 years ago. So I bought a new, and that has been with me for 19 years. I have a good story. Each in when I was in seventh grade, my neighbor and I would play Halo all day and all night. And Halo was one of the first games that would track your stats online on the internet. And it was a Sunday and it was a snow day. And we played for 18 hours straight, stopping only to eat and for biological breaks. I figure it's important for you all to see who I am, to get to know me at the core of my being. I am typically clean cut. I am typically pretty serious, and I try to keep that persona, but I want all of you who are very special to me since I've joined this Toastmasters to know that there is an inner child in me. And so here's to the inner children, the places in our hearts that take us to relaxed states, to do what we want when we have a moment to ignore the cumbersome responsibilities of life and of adulthood. My fellow Toastmasters, let's nerd out together. Back to you, Toastmaster.
Thank you, man.